Hello everyone. So for this video, wanted to play around with some of my watercolor paints, and I'm gonna basically go over the products that I'm using, and I'll try to insert some clips, and if not, then if I can't figure out how to overlay some pictures, I'll link down below, and I'll link down below anyway, but I'll link down below the products that I'm using, so that way you have a reference to which ones, just in case you're interested in any of them. And so I'm going to be kind of reviewing these paints because I just got them about a week ago, and I've only done one painting with them since, so this is my second painting. The first time was just to get a general idea of how to use them, and this is more like testing their limitations and what they can do. So the two palettes that, well, actually they're four palettes, but I would count, well, three of them are from the same brand, and one of them is from a different brand. The main paint set that I'm using is by Artist Loft, and it's called the Fundamental Watercolor Pan Set, 36 colors assorted. And it's really cheap right now on Amazon. It's $7.45 US dollars. It comes with 36 colors, a natural hair brush, it's water soluble, and an excellent beginner set. So these are not like artist grade, I wouldn't say. However, they are a decent enough quality that I enjoy them, and they fit, the purpose that I use them for, which is basically the the main colors. I do like to work in a similar way as I do digitally, where I start with base colors and then I add on shadows. So what I'm drawing today is I really wanted to work with crystals, because one, I love crystals. I have a lot of them, like, in person, so I can use them as references, and I think they're just really pretty. And the second reason why I wanted to is because the other three palettes are a Kuretake Gansai Tambi, which is a Japanese brand. It's imported from Japan. The cases are mostly in Japanese, so if you can't read Japanese, you can probably use a translating app. I know Japanese, so it's not a big deal for me, but I would definitely recommend, if you are looking into these, that you have a good translating app. Or I could even, if anyone's curious, I can translate a little tiny bit. It would just take me a long time to translate most of it, but because there's a lot of text in the back. I don't know why there's so much text, but there is. And the three different sets are called Starry Colors, Pearl Colors, and Gem Colors. And each palette has 6 different colors in each one. And for the entire set, the 3 set, it comes together, it's $30. And each one individually is between $8.39 and $12.97. They're all on Amazon, and pretty easy to get a hold of. And so I guess while I'm just drawing the pencil, sketch in the background, I'll just briefly touch on what I like and don't like about each palette. So the first palette is the Artist Loft, and you might hear it in the background. I'm just opening it so I can actually have a pretty good visual representation. Yeah, I mean, I like this palette a lot. I do have a more professional artist grade palette. However, the other palette is it's tucked away right now, so I didn't use it. But I don't have a huge preference over one or the other. I think that, to be honest, student grade versus artist grade, there is not a huge difference. There is a difference, but I don't mind it too much. The student grade, which this palette that I have is a bit chalky, so that may put off some people. I don't mind it because I like that kind of texture, so for me it's okay. But for other more professional artists that do, this for a living and sell commissions, it may be wiser to invest in a better quality paint. But what I like about this in particular palette, there's 36 of them, and it's a very large variety of colors, which is great because some of them are very limited. I know people like to mix, but honestly, I don't often find the need to mix colors for this palette, simply because it's a lot of the colors are there. There's about three different yellows, a lot of oranges. I think about 5 oranges, 3 reds or so, 2 pinks, 1 dark pink, a couple dark reds, a couple magentas and purples, and then 5 bluish colors. One of them is a bit more purple, but it's still on the more blue side. And then there's 5 greens. Actually, there's 6 greens, 3 browns, a gray, and a black. So it's a pretty significant chunk of the color wheel that is included. The only things I do wish there was a bit more of is yellows. There's honestly only 1 yellow, maybe 2 yellows that I like to use. So if you really like yellows, I recommend probably not getting this palette. But that's okay, because you can just get like a secondary palette to, cover for those missing gaps. And I do use yellows and oranges a lot in earth tones, and what I like about this palette is about half of it is earth tones. So that's really good too. The only downside is the pans are not removable, so if you buy more, if you had like individual pans, colors, that there's no way to remove them, so you're kind of limited to what you have. It does come with a brush. I don't use it. I think the brush is not the best in the world. It's just a cheap brush. You can, what I like to use, water brush pens, which have a chamber in the top, and it contains water, and then you can just squeeze it out as you need it. And a good thing about this set is there is the reverse side of the pan, so the cover, the back side of the cover, has 36 mixing pans, which is incredible because I don't have my own mixing pans. Because I don't often find the need to, I just use the backs of most of my palettes. Sorry about that pause. I just had to cut in the second part of the video. And so back to the Artist Loft set. If you're a beginner to watercolor, I think that this is a perfectly fine art set to get started with. I do recommend buying a separate watercolor pen though. So you should take that into consideration, just because the brush that it comes with is not good. So if you have your own brushes, then you should be fine. And so just to talk about like the consistency of the colors that I notice, like I said, they are a bit chalky, but I'd say most of them are pretty smooth. There's like 1 or 2 that is a bit difficult to activate. The black is actually a little bit difficult to activate, but other than that, I would say that the colors are pretty good. The only downside, I would say, is the darker pigments. They definitely are a bit more chalky. But the lighter pigments are really nice. The greens are great. I love the greens. I love the blues. The purples are gorgeous, gorgeously pigmented, vibrant. And the yellows, although lacking, the one yellow that I really do like is really nice. It's like a golden yellow, but more towards the yellow side. And yeah, I've been using these for months and months. I definitely prefer using this. I also like that the lid can be removed, so that way, I can detach it and use it separately for other paints as mixing pans. And so I guess just to talk about the drawing a little bit before I start talking about the Kuretake pans. The art that I've been doing is mostly I wanted it to be a very mystical a mystical creature that I wanted to draw, and I did start doing the watercolor a little bit off camera just because it actually didn't record, but it was only like a minute, so it wasn't that big of a deal. And so right now in the video I'm coloring the creature, like the main character, and all of this paint right now is from the artist Loft set. And as you can see, the blues are really nice, the pink is really nice. I did have a little bit of problem with the purple, and it's not my favorite color in the set, but it's just very, very pigmented, hard to water down, which in a way is good, but I like to work from light to dark, so it kind of was a downside, unfortunately, but I was able to cover it, and in the final sketch you couldn't even notice the blotch that was created. And then right now you can see I'm using gray in the background. I know the lighting isn't that great. It's really stormy out right now, so it's dark and dreary, and unfortunately my light in my room is not very good itself. So I do fix the lighting in a little bit. I'm not exactly sure when, but I do try to fix the lighting soon, so you don't have to worry about it too much. Oh, actually, I'm working on the lighting right now. I'm watching the video as I record the audio. That way I can, see what I'm doing and talk about what I'm working on at the moment. Just because it's kind of, at least I find it nearly impossible to do commentary and draw at the same time. I also like to listen to music and, podcasts and stuff, which is all copywritten, so I just remove all that audio and then put it on my own audio on top of it. But so right now you can see me using lots of gray. My favorite thing to do for backgrounds, for sketches and watercolors, I don't really do this for digital too much, but for traditional drawing, I like to start really, really light, and it's almost like impossible to see at first, and then I build up the layers. And the great thing about watercolor is it dries almost instantly, which is something I love. I can't really use acrylic or oil because it takes so long to dry, and it's very frustrating. If you're a patient person, then acrylic and oil might be your thing, but it's not for me. But that's fine. I'll stick to digital and watercolor because it dries, well, digitally. There's no drying time at all, which is great. But for this, you can see that it almost dries instantaneously, which is good and bad. Good because you don't have to worry about smudging things. You don't have to worry about making the paper too wet because it dries so fast. You can just re-wet it. The colors, at least for this set, I find don't often reactivate once it's on the paper, which can be a challenge because you have to work fast. But if you know what you're doing, you go into it, with an idea, then it shouldn't be a big deal. So the way that I generally do backgrounds is I work from like a blank background and I just build up the designs as I see fit. So like for instance, I just added in that stalactite, not sure which one it is, but I added that as a darker shade, which I'm pretty sure I changed in the end, but for now, it's not too bad because it's so light that you can basically put a layer over it and change it, you know. And if you make a mistake, just you can just draw basically right over it, which is great, which is something I love about watercolor. And I know some artists prefer watercolor that is more dense, I guess you could say. Like the pigments are more dense, so when you put it down, it's more like a cream, more like acrylic than watercolor. I don't prefer that. I prefer very runny, very transparent watercolors. And that's what Artist Loft, I've had very good experiences with Artist Loft. They are pretty good at creating that, transparency that I like. And it allows me to build up the layers. I think sometimes I'll go over an area of 7 or 8 different times. The other thing about watercolor is it dries more transparent than you put it on. So at first it may look solid black, but in a second it can become very, very light. And you'll see me dabbing the paper right now. If I accidentally like oversaturated the paper, which if you have the correct paper shouldn't be a big deal, but I just don't have it in me to to shell out so much money for watercolor paper. The paper that I'm using right now is just in my sketchbook, and it works decently fine. If you oversaturate the page, there'll be like a slight wrinkling, but the pages are pretty thick, so it's not that bad. I'm not exactly sure which notebook I use, but it's just a blank page notebook with slightly cardstock esque pages. And so yeah, if you are looking into doing watercolor, I do recommend a watercolor paper. That way you don't have to worry about oversaturating the paper. But yeah, this one I just have to be a little bit careful on, so that you'll see me occasionally dabbing the paper. It also helps make things, if I put things on too heavy, I'm like, oh, well, I want a little bit less pigment there. I can just dab it. You just have to be quick, but if you dab it within, 10, 15 seconds, then it will get a little bit lighter. Okay, and then, yeah, so I'm still working on with the Artist Loft and the drawing. I did switch I did a cut again, just because my camera does this really interesting thing where it stops after, I think, like 15 minutes of recording. It doesn't tend to like it doesn't tend to like longer than 15 minutes. It gets mad and it shuts off. So I have to hit re-record. But luckily it doesn't like lose the paper, it doesn't lose the recording or anything. But it means that I have quite a bit of cuts in the whole process. And I know this video is going to be pretty lengthy, but again, I really hope that it will, people that like to watch other people draw, like in an ASMR kind of way. I don't really get ASMR much, like the audio things, like cutting vegetables, with the mic really close to the microphone. But I don't know if I just said microphone close to the microphone. I'm not sure, but I meant the knife cutting the cucumber close to the microphone. But I do really like watching art videos where people draw art, and so if you don't like my voice, which is totally fine, I sometimes hate my voice, but I mean, I think everyone does, especially when listening to it re-recorded. You can just mute me, put on some nice music. I actually might put on a little bit of copyright free, YouTube music in the background underneath my voice recording. But yeah, you can just mute me if you really want and you just want to watch me draw. I'm totally fine with that too. But yeah, I do want to leave in most of the process just because I know when I want to watch these kinds of videos, I tend to want to watch the whole thing. I don't like when huge chunks are cut out, just because it seems like you're missing part of the process. And I'm going to even go into detail about the program that I use to edit the picture, because I am a mixed media artist. So what I do is I'll take the watercolor and I'll take a picture of it, upload it to my computer, and then use a program that I have to manipulate what I've drawn into something that I like, because I really do like that digital look, but I don't always like to make things just 100% digitally. And actually, I don't think I ever make anything 100% digitally, unless it's like pixel art or something. I'd say 99% of the time, I do something traditionally, upload it, or scan it, or, I just take a picture, and then, edit it in a program. And that's my preferred way of doing my art. It's definitely not something you have to do. Some people just stop when they are done with the traditional. And that's totally great. I love that art too. And I'll show both versions. I'm gonna have this video go until I'm done with the traditional drawing. I'll stop the video, and I'll put up the final drawing, just a screenshot of it, without any manipulations done, so that way you can see what the traditional version looks like. And I wasn't going for a super polished look here. I kind of wanted it to look more sketchy, more like this is in my notebook, this is my drawing notebook. It's not like my professional, a portfolio piece. It's just a page in my notebook, and I'm trying to fill my notebook by the end of the year. I'm not doing super great, but I think I've gotten like maybe a little bit less than a quarter way through it. So yeah, I'm just gonna do this, I'll do a notebook tour at the end of the year maybe, or midway through the end of the year, although it is almost midway through the end of the year already. But yeah, so if there's like inconsistencies, there's problems in it, there's holes in the drawing, like I didn't color in a piece, don't worry, I didn't miss it. I don't want to put in so much time into one piece. I just think it's, you can spend 3 hours doing a painting or 10 hours doing a painting. The 3-hour version, it looks great. People will love it, but you find an inconsistency with it, or you need to change something, and you spend the next 6 hours, changing little details, and in the end, was it worth it? Honestly, I don't know. And it's probably very subjective. So this painting took me I think 3 hours. It takes me honestly longer to do the editing process and the recording, just because I have to watch everything back that I did to make sure that I've cut out all the audio, because I don't want to get copyright striked for listening to music or watching TV, and also to commentate on top of it. And I know this part isn't the most interesting. I think I've just been drawing the background for the past I don't know, 10 minutes or so. But it's really important, and I'll be getting on to the more interesting stuff soon, which brings me to the Kuretake Gansai Tambi. And these palettes are some of the most gorgeous paints I have ever used, like, in my life. They are stunning to look at. There are 18 of them in total, and they're in 3 different palettes. The palettes are Pearl Colors, Starry Colors, and Gem Colors. And the paints themselves, I don't know the exact names, because some of them, the Japanese names are in kanji, and I don't know all the kanji, but I'll just basically tell you what I think the colors are, and I'm sure I can find, the actual color names if I just look really quick. Let's see if they're on the Amazon page. Let's see. They're $30, about $10 each set, and they're gorgeous. I don't see the color names. I'm sure you could find them in a review or in the description, but yeah, I'm going to link in my in the box below, so don't worry about that. I will link to where you can find them. But so I'll start with I'll start with the Pearl Colors because they think they're really pretty, but they're kind of simple too. So the Pearl Colors are this, I would say, kind of opalescent sheen. They have a sheen to them. They're very, very shiny, like, I guess, like pearls. They're very, very shiny. There's not really much of a sparkle to them. They don't have any, like, glitter in them, or just, they're just very, very reflective. And I think that they might actually work really well with, like metal tones. I use them a lot for, like a skin tone, like a highlighter. They are very neon colored, but you can water them down and it won't be very neon. It'll be more like a neon hue, but a darker, lighter version of it. So the colors that you have are number 734, number 731, number 740, number 751, number 762, and number 906. So there's pink/purple. Honestly, it's a very hard color to judge. It's like a pinkish. I'd say it's more pink toned. And then there's a rust red, a lemon yellow, a lime green, I'd say like a very light blue, but it has kind of some dark blue hints to it, and a white/pearl color. And the cool thing about these are the paints themselves are very textured. They have lots of like holes, pockets. They're very porous. So if you have trypophobia, probably not the best paints for you, but they're very textured, and like you can feel if you run your finger over the top of them, it's really interesting to feel. When you use them, they get a little bit smoother, but it's not super smooth even when you use them, and they go on the paper very nicely though. The pigment itself is very creamy and not chalky at all. There's nothing chalky about any of these. They're so creamy, like it's literally like spreading butter almost on your paper, and it just has a gorgeous texture to it. I can't say enough. I don't to be honest, I don't think the Pearl palette is my favorite of the three. It's probably my least favorite, but that's all subjective because I think they're all gorgeous anyway. So I can't really say that one of them is, ugly or not worth buying. I think they're all worth buying, personally. And again, I'm not sponsored by any of these companies that I'm talking about, by the way. These are just my personal opinions, and so I'm going to give my honest reviews. And so if you don't have to worry about me, like, having been given money by this company, so I'm going to say this company, their products are amazing, when actually I don't really like them. No, I actually like these. I love these palettes. And so the second palette that I want to review is Starry Colors. And this one might possibly be my favorite of the three. I think it's tied for first. It is a metal-based set. So this would also be good for metals, but more along like earth-toned metals. So there's two different kinds of gold, I would say. One bronze, two kind of tannish bronzes, and then like a brass is one brass color, and then there's a white. So the numbers are number 901, number 902, number 903, 904, 905, and 906, if you're interested. That's just their own like numbering code system, but that's what they are. And this set, I think, is gorgeous when it comes to the creaminess gets to me. But I did just change to working with the gem colors, so I want to talk about those because I think they are my favorite. Number one, the gem colors are so pretty, and these colors are sparkly. They have like glitter in them almost, but not cheap glitter, not like the cheap chunky glitter, but this really fine glitter powder, and it creates this sparkle to the paint. And the paint itself is, I don't know how to describe it because it's nothing like I've ever used before. It almost like flows like liquid metal. Like it just, the paints, when you get like when you put your brush into it and then you put it on the paper, it like collects in like a bead, and then it spreads out almost like lava across the paper. And I think it's such a cool, it's almost like an experience that you can get from using these paints. Honestly, they're like magic. But the gem colors, I use them as they're advertised for gems and crystals. I think they work great with crystals too. In this painting, they're all, crystals, and what I love about them is they create this gorgeous granulation effect on the sides. So the paint tends to like collect around itself. So it will pick a point on the paper, I guess just because the paper is a little bit bent, a little bit textured, and it fills into these certain parts, into the valleys of the paper, and it collects there, but it creates this incredible granulation effect, which looks so natural, and it just looks like a natural thing that you would see from like a crystal or a rock formation. So they are just perfect for using for gems. And you'll see me right now, I'm putting it also a little bit around the gem because the sparkly colors can be used for like a glow effect. And then I'm patting it down and removing the excess paint, so that way it mostly just leaves like that kind of glow to it. And you can actually see in the painting, which I'm amazed that you can actually see like in the video. You can see the sparkles like if you look close enough. And it's definitely very different than what it looks like in person. And I'll try to upload pictures of like parts of the painting so that you can actually see what it looks like, so you can get a better idea. But it's gorgeous, and it almost has a translucency. Oh, I'm showing you right now what it looks like in the pan, so you can see the that one I think was with the Pearl Colors. Yeah, that was the Pearl Color pan set. Number 906 I'm putting over right now, which is just a translucent like sheen to the gemstones and the crystals, and you can see it kind of looks like glass, like a very almost like candied sugar look, I guess you could say. And I am going to be using a video actually with food involved soon, which is, you can, like, these paints already have a granulation effect, so it's not like super necessary, but if you use salt on your paint, it creates a gorgeous granulation effect, which I want to show off in a video, which I'll make. My setup is just a little bit, it could be better. I don't have much room in my current room I'm living in. It's very cramped, and it's hard for me to get a setup. A lot of the pauses in the video is because I had to crawl over my bed to get into the chair because the tripod was in the way. But so hopefully when I move back to an actual house, it'll be better. And wow, I am actually kind of surprised at the amount of the glitter that you can see from the camera. The lighting in my room is not great, so I did not think that any of the sheen would come through, but it really did, so that's cool. I'm glad about that. So yeah, I'm just working on all the gems right now, and I just, in the video, I just changed the lighting again, just because the the lighting keeps on changing. That's how long I've been working on this piece. But it's just very overcast today, so the lighting is not great in my room, unfortunately. But I am glad I was able to finish the traditional part before it got dark out, or too late. I definitely was hoping for a little bit better lighting conditions, but you know, sometimes you you work with what you got. And so I'm focusing now on trying to create an illumination from inside of the crystals in this world that I have. The character is looking at this, I'm not sure, I guess I could call it an entity. So it's looking at this entity, this essence, maybe even this aura that's inside of the crystals, and I kind of want it to be like this, you know, this setting, this world, this fantasy world is inside of this cave, and there is no natural lighting except from the crystals. And the crystals are emitting a glow, which you'll see once I get to the digital portion of this drawing. It'll be a lot more obvious that the glow is coming from the inside. I do often struggle with with creating something from lighting on the inside. However, I do think that I do, if you put a color in the middle of something and then kind of desaturate it outwards, it can look decent enough. I tend to use tools such as digital tools to add the light sources, and you can see now I'm adding a lot of this yellow gold tones to the picture because I thought it was a bit too cool toned. I wanted it to be a little bit warmer, so I'm adding some gold, as if like the rocks themselves are made out of mixed in with gold dust or gold some kind of gold stone, and I think it came out really pretty. In person, the whole painting got really sparkly, just because the the pen I'm using, I have multiple versions of the pen, but I just stick with one for each painting, and so the black picked up a lot of the gold glitter, and it didn't really change the black tone, but it did add the glitter to it, so the black is even kind of glittery, which is cool. It's a cool effect. I'm not mad at it. But I think my favorite part of this drawing so far is the two crystals on the left side of the painting. It just, the blue one especially came out really good with the gold on the inside. It just looks like this universe almost that is suspended inside of the crystal, and that's kind of what I was trying to think about, or at least that's the mindset I was in when I was drawing this painting. I wanted it to look like a universe encaged in something. So the crystal became a metaphor for the cave, just as the creature is living inside of the cave, the entity or the galaxy or whatever is living inside of the crystal. So I thought that was really cool to bring the whole piece together. My favorite setting to draw is caves, because the light sources you can play around with so much, and I think it's one of the best things to do if you love lighting and shadows, and even if you're learning, which I think is great, if you're learning how to draw shadows and lighting, caves are a really cool source, a really cool place to a setting to draw in and to learn, because you can kind of construct the world how you want it. Not how it has to be, but how you want it. And I think that's so cool. And lighting in caves is really cool too, because one moment. Sorry about that. I reached the end of the recording. So what I'm showing right now is the final picture, and I love it. I think it came out great. There's obviously room for improvement, but again, this is just a sketch, so I didn't even fill up the whole page. I ended up cropping it significantly in the last picture, in the end picture. So I can do a tutorial about lighting, and I can put that in a separate video. But for now, I hope you had a great time, and the next video I'll be showing the digital process that I go through using this picture. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye!